Hey there, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show with Sasha and Ish. Alright, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show, the podcast for leadership and career development, and this is the one where we remember when, as we tiptoe down memory lane, and hopefully you will enjoy this as it might prompt some memories from your past as well. And I tell you what, lucky we didn't record this episode today because my voice is gone. But that doesn't matter because it's a great episode and we continue to ask the big questions. Would you rather have penis-sized nipples or a nipple-sized penis?
Oh.
Anyway, that's the show. Let's get it. Alright, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today, and this is the one where we remember about that time that lots of things. We're going to remember lots of things because in amongst all the crappy things that go on, sometimes you just end up repeating the same memories over and over again. And there's been lots of times in our life that have been different and exciting, and we're going to remember some of those and hopefully prompt a few of those for you as well. And someone that I have had a lot of memories with over the years, Sasha Coburn. How you doing?
You know what, Ash, you and I were just talking before we recorded. We've had a tough week. There's some stuff going on. So it's so useful to look back and remember a bunch of stuff, good and bad, and remind ourselves that whatever we're in at any given time will pass, but also how fun it is to actually specifically go back and remember stuff. I mean, you and I are old enough that we're still using Facebook. Facebook memories pop up a photo from 8 years ago, and you just have this flood of emotion. So even though you know you are being manipulated by being fed back to yourself by the algorithms, things that you love, you can't help but have this feeling of, oh, yeah, that's right. And I think we should do it more often. So I'm super looking forward to doing it today.
Yeah, and that's where I think the algorithm is great because it does feed you great memories as opposed to that advert for that thing you were talking about once with someone that you didn't really want.
When they were listening.
And all of a sudden, Facebook started targeting, I think they're retiring. Let's start feeding them information on retirement villages.
We have an ad on TV that comes up from time to time for a local retirement village. And every time Chris does something just slightly boomerish or old manish, the whole family in unison, we sing, Bethlehem Shores, because Bethlehem Shores is the retirement village we're shipping him off to.
That's a great place. Actually, I've had lunch there.
Oh, there you go.
Looking around. I know. I always get prompted by that quote from Ferris Bueller when I sometimes end up really busy in life, and it says, life moves pretty fast, and if you don't stop and look around once in a while, you're going to miss it. And that's really what we want to concentrate on today. Maybe the fact that life is going fast and we should look around and maybe look back and think, what were those times, Sash? So I've got some questions for you and I'm going to see what comes up.
All right, I'm ready.
I'm going to go way back. Like, what's the first memory that you ever had? Like, what do you recall?
So hard to know whether this is a memory of a memory. But I distinctly remember, I don't remember way back, I remember being 3 years old and being in Holland, so in the Netherlands. And my parents were there on a missionary trip. They were learning how to be missionaries. They had to go to Holland to do that. Woohoo! And so they took us kids with them because we were little. And I distinctly remember we were staying in this little cabin and my mum had said, you stay here, I'm going to get the washing. And she'd left me in the little cabin, and because it was snowing and cold outside, and she said, don't you come outside. Don't follow me. Don't you come outside. And certainly do not come outside in your bare feet. So pretty much as soon as she left, I went outside in my bare feet and just sort of poked my nose around the corner to watch what she was doing. And on her way back, my nose was still poked around the corner and she saw me. And I remember getting in really big trouble. And it really upsets my mum that the first real cognitive memory I have is of her telling me off. But I remember that feeling of, I know this is naughty, but I'm going to do it.
Oh, that's funny that it was a naughty one. Mine was probably a naughty one as well. So I remember a house that was in Wecker Street in Nelson. It was wasn't where I was born, but they moved pretty soon after I was born into this house, and my first memory was there. And I remember my bedroom, and then going out into the hallway and walking down to the garage, and my dad's orange drill was in the garage, and I remember just picking it up with two hands and squeezing the trigger, and it was plugged in, and it went like that, and I dropped it. Seriously, like it was, I remember it vividly, the terror. And I didn't run and find my parents, I just ran back and hid under my bed because I knew I shouldn't have been in the garage in the first place. So there you go.
You went into the garage.
I know, naughty.
Funny that we remember. There must be something, I reckon that, and someone will know this, but my theory is there must be something in the chemical response that we've had at those times, and that's created quite a deep memory in our brain.
Yeah.
It's like a first kind of, not trauma, but first kind of trauma.
Yeah. Okay, what about first kiss?
Oh, I've always been into boys. I remember being really young, and not it's not the fact that I was into boys that's memorable. It was the fact that I was into this idea that you could have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or that there was this attraction between people that was different from just your friends. And so I was 5 years old, and we lived right next door to a dairy. It was 360 The Mall in Onehunga in Auckland, and dairy next door, and the guy who owned the dairy, his parents were moving away. And I really, really loved him. I was 5. But I was deeply, deeply connected to him. And so I invited him. My brother had put up a little pup tent on our back lawn. And so I don't even know the guy's name now. I can't remember. But I remember asking the dairy guy's son before they moved away, would he like to come into the tent and kiss me? What a hoe. What a little hoe bag. Just putting it out there around the neighborhood. And I'm pretty sure, obviously he said yes. Don't look these lips in the eye and say no.
I was 5 as well. What's interesting about my first kiss is I thought it was my first girlfriend, a girl called Nikki Valentine. And I thought...
she had the name.
Yeah, and I thought it was her. But it wasn't. It was actually a girl called Erin Brunt that I grew up with. And she told me one day that we were about 5 years old, and and she kissed me around the back of the church. And when we were 5 years old, and described it, and it was like, oh, actually, no, I think I do remember that. So there you go. It was, Erin Brunt when I was 5 years old.
So it was more memorable for Erin than it was for you. I feel like we're probably traumatizing people. I hope you guys aren't listening.
Maybe I just blocked it out. Yeah,
Erin.
Because I was probably not supposed to be doing that sort of stuff.
You were supposed to be in the church, not round the back of the church.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, what about, have you ever had a speeding ticket or any type of ticket?
Yes. Yes, I have had a ticket. And the first ticket I got, it was a beauty. I pulled out onto Manukau Road in Auckland, which is, kind of a main arterial route. And I was in my mum and dad's car. I was in the 7th form, so year 13 at school. And I pulled out, and as I pulled into the road, stretched on in front of me, and it was just before I came home, and I went, here we go, yes. So I just put the pedal down, but it was a 50-kilometre zone speed limit, and I was going 84 kilometres. I was giving it a bit of a blast. And so then I took one more turn, and I was parked right outside my parents' house. And then these flashing lights, I was literally just about home. These flashing lights pulled up. And so I was so keen for it to be over, because I was like, sir, you need to turn your lights off. Your lights are going to wake my parents up in their house, and everyone's going to know what's just happened here. So it was pretty expensive, because going 34 Ks over the speed limit, not recommended. I think it was about $230, the fine, which back in the day, that would be like a, $600 fine now, maybe. A lot of money. So I think I might have told you this before. I applied for a scholarship at school to go to university, and it was a little small thing, $300 they gave you as a contribution. And so I used that to pay for my speeding ticket. I didn't tell my parents, but rookie error, I left the ticket in the shirt of my school uniform. And when Mum went to wash my school uniform, she took the ticket out of the pocket. And I came home from school one day and Mum's like, yeah, so about that ticket, we better have a chat. I said, don't worry, I've got a plan to pay it. All I have to do is win a scholarship to go to university and I'll use that money. Good life lesson. Ouch.
Good life lesson.
Have you ever had one?
Well, yeah, so I had a speeding ticket from a speed camera, and because they don't give you demerit points, it was just a fine. But it was interesting because I actually requested to have the photo, because I don't know if you can still do that, but I said, look, I want to see the photo and make sure it was me driving or my car or whatever. And so I got the photo, and the photo was of the driver's side. So I was driving towards the police car, and they used to have them in the back of the cars in those days. It was one of those ones that drive around. And the photo clearly showed me driving the car. And then I was thinking to myself, how did they get that angle? And so I went back to the street and I sat there and I thought, how would the cop have had to have parked? And I realized that he must have been on the other side of the road facing oncoming traffic. So he was parked illegally. And so I had a friend who used to be a cop, and I explained it, and he goes, when you write back, just say, like, don't overcomplicate it, just write, I shouldn't have to pay this ticket because the officer involved was illegally parked. Here's the photo evidence. And sure enough, they let me off. So,
wow.
Yeah, because you can't park on the other side of the road facing oncoming traffic.
You're the lawyer out of the two of us. My time at law school was wasted.
Street smart lawyer school.
Wow. I love that story.
What about first friend? Who was your first friend?
I have just recently reconnected with my first friend on Twitter, and it's been such a cool time because I had kind of forgotten about her in terms of it was in the recesses of my memory. And she found me on Twitter and we got to talking, and she said, yeah, we met on our first day of school and we were really tight. And as soon as she started explaining it to me, this flood of memories came back, and she sent me a photo of her at that age. And again, it just unlocked the part of my brain that she was in. And I had this overwhelming feeling of remembering that feeling of being friends with her. And yeah, I'd gone to her house after school. It was the first play date I'd had, and it was a really special to reconnect. And I've since met her again in real life in Auckland, and it was pretty cool. Those friendships run deep.
Oh, that's cool. I had a best mate when I was growing up, and we kind of, his name was Tony, and we basically grew up together. I think two families knew each other, and then they had babies at the same time, and as a result, that was kind of this friend circle. But it was interesting because we were best mates for a long time, and then he kind of, I don't know, he went a bit odd to be be honest. But I
more
just
trashing people we hope aren't listening.
From time to time. Yeah, from time to time. But his brother and I actually became quite good mates afterwards, but just completely different sort of roads. Like he went to uni in Wellington after school, and I stayed in Nelson and worked. But when he went to uni, he just got into a friend group that, they just did some crazy stuff. Anyway, probably just, and then by the time he came back, I was in Christchurch by that stage, so we didn't really connect after that.
Oh, that's funny, because my first proper, like, Pesci, get your tongues out kiss, when I was thinking about that, it was a guy who, again, I just so appreciated him, and we would have been 11 maybe, and we came from different walks of life, but I didn't know the extent of how different our walks of life were until I reconnected with another mutual friend, and I said, how's Jamal going? I remember those days, we were in Form 1, Year 7, we had our first little, proper pash kiss, and he said, the mutual friend said, that he's the head of one of New Zealand's largest gangs, and that's his life course. He is Gangster Badlands. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, no, we did come from, and I was so naive, I hadn't realized that perhaps that was his home environment, and perhaps that was always going to be his life path without some intervention. So yeah, Hey, Jamal, hope you're listening.
Yeah, well, can you imagine with your smarts, if you two had got together, you would have been like a super criminal.
We would have taken off. This is not funny.
You'd be like the guy from Despicable Me. Yeah, just like designing all the
Breaking Bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Ozark.
Global domination in a
this
completely
only goes
different way.
dark places, right?
Okay, best advice you ever got.
Stop going out with Jamal. No, that is not the best life advice I've gotten. And if you are listening, Mr. Head of the Big Gang, I have really deep respect for you. And I live in Invercargill. Leave my family alone. Best advice. Oh, this is so hard because I'm such a sucker for really great advice. I'm someone who comes across as a real know-all, but I love learning. So I'm always listening and hearing what people are saying. And I think someone early on must have instilled a little bit of don't give up in me. And that simple truth has stood me in good stead. I don't give up. I'm happy to quit. We've talked about quit being different to giving up, but I just instinctively don't give up. I think there's always a way to get something done. Second to that, can I have two bits?
Yeah,
Am I allowed to have two?
Yeah.
My other bit that I think is really important, and this has absolutely been the single biggest truth of my life, is that being who you are and to serve others is a greatest gift and it's a great responsibility.
Nice.
I think we all do best when we are truly who we are and we amplify that not for our own glory but in the service of others. No one is served if you turn the volume down on who you are.
Beautiful. Okay, so mine was a conversation I had with a client of mine, and we're actually just in his car. So we finished our session and we went out, and I was talking about this idea that I wanted to do. And it was a piece of advice that actually he gave me that at the time probably was useful for what I was thinking of doing, but actually has played out a number of times. And it was just a simple statement of, could you just start it more organically? So I was kind of like, I want to investors and I want to come up with this big thing. And he was like, could you start it organically? How could you just start the ball rolling tomorrow? And it was actually really useful because I think for a number of times I've looked at ideas or concepts and been able to get things moving by just going, well, how could I start this? Like, what's a step that I could start doing in the right direction, rather than either completely going all in and completely committed to something. It's just allowed me to, I don't know, do things a little bit more calculated and differently.
I love that so much because you live that. Let's just start it. Let's just get going. Let's just try it. People say, oh, I've got to quit my job before I write my book. No, you don't. Just start writing your book. Get up a bit earlier. Just get started. That is gold.
Totally.
Love that.
Okay, best fail or biggest fail. Should we say the biggest fail or best fail? Best fail's good. Learning experiences.
So many fails. I'm going to tell you about the fail that I'm responsible for.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense. So I failed a ballet exam when I was about 13 or 14, unexpected.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's not my fault, but I had prepared fully. I did my absolute best and it just wasn't good enough. So I don't see that as a failure. I went back the next year, did it again because I'd given it everything I could and the examiner said not quite right. That's different from situations where you look back and you go, oh, yeah, I really contributed to that. I took some shortcuts. I didn't do enough work. And that to me is the much bigger, that's the failure. And so we all know the time that Les Mills flew me to Sweden to speak at a conference and it went terribly from beginning to end. What interests me when I think about this, though, is that you know who remembers that talk out of all the people that were there that day?
Just you.
Only me. Only me, right? Not because it was so bad that no one talks about it. It was just so bad, but also just a small part of somebody's day that they would not give any energy and time to. So one of my learnings is learn from that mistake. I wasn't prepared enough. I hadn't done enough research. I just got it wrong on lots of levels, but also just move on from it. because no one else is giving it any energy. It hasn't stopped me continuing to get speaking gigs. And just in the last 2 weeks and in the next 2 weeks, I'm busier than I've ever been in my life. And not a single person who rings me to book me says, you know what, we've really wrestled with this because we heard this one time you went to Sweden and bombed. Like, it's gone. It doesn't see ya. So, yeah, big fail, big learning, but also big in the past. Who cares?
Yeah.
Tell me about yours.
Okay, so my biggest fail was the first time I tried to start a personal training business. So I was working at a gym called Olympus, and I had basically left my job as the assistant manager there, still working at that gym, but just fully committed to becoming a personal trainer. So put it all on the line. I used all the money that Joe and I had been saving to get married to start this business up.
Oh, no.
And it was just a complete fail.
So what happened? Like, no clients?
No clients, spent just money on just like equipment or things that I thought would be useful, and getting a uniform and upskilling.
Business cards printed.
Business cards printed. In fact, my first business card, I think it had like specialize in weight loss, sports conditioning, and bodybuilding. I got a couple of clients.
Specialize in all the things.
Oh, it was just such a fail. But because of that fail, when I went to do it the next time, which was obviously hugely successful the second time, but I just had all those learnings of what not to do. So expensive lesson.
How did you get out of it, Ash?
Oh,
did you just stop and then get a job?
Yeah, so I basically just stopped and ended up getting a job at another gym. So I went back to Les Mills as a gym instructor and then worked my way back up again. And then I had the opportunity to go PTing again, but I remember that anxiety of, but I tried last time and it didn't work. But I had all those learnings behind me, and by that stage I was a lot smarter and a little less arrogant.
How long did it take Joe to forgive you?
Oh, she's a very forgiving person. We just started saving again.
Oh, that is so funny.
Yeah.
Honey, you know that money we've been saving for our marriage? Look at my business cards. Behold my kettlebell.
Okay, what about biggest win then? If we've done the fail, what's a win or something that's gone really well?
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-Minute Presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-Minute Presenter program.
That's really hard for me because I just feel like life is a whole series of little wins along the way. I mean, if you could say the biggest win was meeting Chris.
Yeah.
Like just randomly choosing to go into that coffee shop on that particular day and, falling for the cute old guy behind the counter because that, so many of the other wins have come from that. Maybe you could say that the best win was actually taking my first job at Les Mills. I had no prior interest in fitness, and just a whole series of events led me there, and that's opened up so many opportunities and avenues for me. Maybe the best win was being born to my parents, because my parents have been so influential and loving and set me up for such great success.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that I think of. I mean, winning the 100 meters at Tauranga Intermediate completely unexpectedly and blowing everybody away in year 8 was, that was a good, fun time.
Yeah.
Winning that award where, a few years ago when I got the highest score in my dance exam, and all those 14-year-olds had their dreams crushed because I was like 47 at the time. Like those are like little wins winning the Prime Minister's Business Scholarship. Like there's lots of things along the way that I think it's hard to go to pinpoint. That's it. That's the one thing. I mean, I hope that my biggest wins are still ahead of me.
Yeah.
I hope there's wins still to come. What might that look like?
Yeah,
certainly being able to help other people is the thing I enjoy the most.
Yeah,
being able to share from the abundance that we've created, that I feel like that's a big win.
That's good. Well, yeah, I waded through my memories, and obviously lots of wins along the way, but there was one moment that I kind of was like, yeah, that was pretty special. So I got invited to speak at FIBO in Cologne in Germany by Philip Mills. And that's a big event. For those of you that know fitness trade shows, that's like the trade show. It's so big, it's hard to explain. And there was a speaking stream, but to get into that, you have to be pretty high profile. And Philip decided that he wanted to take me to this event. And the way he kind of pitched it is he said, I'm going to bring my head of fitness-ish. Now, he's not a big name, but he is a great presenter. So that's kind of how they pitched it. So it was me, Philip Mills, and the first keynote speaker was the guy that used to own Aston Villa, the soccer team. And so we're in...
Right.
Yeah, okay. So we're in Europe. Is that what Germany is? Europe?
Yes, well done.
So we're in Europe, and I've just
I mean, at the moment, Germany's still in Europe.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
At the time of recording.
Basically, he's up first. Everyone's loving him because, football, biggest sport in the world. And then I could just see the people at my table just going, so who is this guy? And so I'm on next, and I could see they were worried. They were worried for me. Like, they were literally worried that I was going to get up there and just have a fail. And I got up there and freaking nailed it, knocked it out of the park.
Nailed it.
And even the guy who I used to own Aston Villa came up to me and said, oh, could I get your slide deck? So I was like, yeah, you can. But it was just one of those moments where you kind of go, you've just been practicing almost like your whole life for that moment.
Yes.
And it just went really well. And the whole experience was amazing. And yeah.
How cool. I love that for you, that you've experienced what it's like to be in a big environment. Shut up. Step up and absolutely nail it and know that you've nailed it. And I completely relate to that feeling of perhaps everything in your life had brought you to that point. And boom! Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Go you. And also, because now's a good opportunity to just let people who are listening know, if you want to be as good as Ish, you can buy our 30-minute presenter program. It's available for sale. You too could be as good as Ishmael Shane one day.
All right, best moment. So a memory for you that you just go, that was great. I loved that.
Oh, you go first.
Okay, so for me, it was, I should say the birth of my children, but that wasn't it. I should say when I got married, but that wasn't it. But it did involve my wife, Jo. So it was actually Jo's 40th birthday in Fiji, and it was the first time we'd been to Fiji. We were at the Hilton in Dinnerau, and just the entire holiday, from the moment we landed and the Fijian people were singing and everything about that was just the most perfect holiday. And the nights with the sunsets and everything like that was my favorite kind of prolonged moment. Yeah, was definitely Jo's 40th in Fiji. It was amazing. That's my happy place when I have memories.
Oh, that is really beautiful. That's so lovely. Yeah, mine's definitely not the birth of my children either. It was like big operations to lift up that sunroof and pull those puppies out. So a series of moments, so snapshots of family holidays over the years where you're in lovely places. And often for us, it's not actually those moments where it's really things are going well. It's actually the moments when things are going really pear-shaped and we're looking at each other. But it makes for a great story later, and you look back and you go, oh, remember that time there were 8 of us in that train station in Naples, and we were all yelling at each other about which was the right way to go, and we all went 8 different ways, and then and the moment comes in the retelling of that experience that at the time was horrendous, but you look back and you go, actually, that was pretty bloody cool. So things like that. We had a moment once with my dad on a catamaran, again in Fiji, and was me, Tigers and Porsche and Dad, and we got stuck in the wind shadow of this massive super yacht. And so all the people on the super yacht could see us, and we couldn't move our little the little Hobie cat that we were on. And so they were laughing, and we just we could not stop laughing ourselves. So we're in the middle of the sea, my dad, a couple of kids, not dangerous. We weren't ever in any danger, but we couldn't move. And it was just hilarious. So things like that are special. And the last one that I want to mention is when I got to give that class graduation event at Harvard, and Chris came up to Boston for the talk, and I got to talk on that stage about coffee culture and the journey of being a tiny little company and growing, and just giving voice to that in that arena that was full of people who have businesses so much bigger and who are so much more, I don't know, kind of advanced than we are. That was a moment that I got to talk about what he had done and what he had achieved, and to honour him in that moment. And that was really special.
Oh, cool. That's awesome, Sash. All right, I'm going to play your song, and I want you to tell me what memory comes up when you hear this song. So we're coming back to you. Okay. All right. What memory is prompts? I don't know what the appropriate amount of song to play before we get into copyright infringement laws. So.
Well, I also love that you don't even have to play like the song to be able to just be taken right back there. Funnily enough, for me, it's not the original time that the song first came out. It's when we went to see those guys play in Christchurch. And we were with friends, and they had splashed out and got a corporate box. And we were very much not corporate box types, but we got to go and experience them, see it be played live. And as sort of older people remembering our youth at that time, sort of like what we're doing now, Ash, reliving those glory days. It was pretty cool. It's always been a bit of an anthem, right?
I remember driving around with my friend in Nelson, Rowan Peklusky, shout out, and he owned a Hillman Hunter, and we used to drive around blaring that song out the window. It was so cool. And we were actually at the time trying to find these girls that used to drive a Vauxhall Viva, a white Vauxhall Viva, and every now and then we would see them, and they were, I guess the girls that we were interested in, but we never did really catch them.
Very cool. I had a Hillman Hunter was my first car too, so yeah, that's classic.
All right, real quick ones. Here we go. Favorite smell?
Fresh bread just baked out of the oven.
Nice. Being on a volleyball court, an indoor volleyball court for me. There's
just takes you back.
Yeah. Favorite taste?
Raw fish.
Oh, Red Bull. Sums us both up there. Favorite item of clothing?
Oh, I do have a very sparkly green jacket that I like. Party Vote green.
Nice. All right. I've Champions of the World sweatshirt that I've had for literally years, and it still just keeps on giving. And the reason I love it is because the sleeves are long enough for my abnormally long arms.
That's amazing. Custom fit.
Favorite thing you've ever owned?
Piano.
Boxing calculator that I got when I was about 7. Remember those? You had 2 buttons.
Yeah.
I used to love that thing. I carried that everywhere. Favorite TV show?
The West Wing.
Oh, okay. All right.
Watched it multiple times.
Ah, okay. I've never watched The West Wing. I feel like
you might enjoy it. Save yourself the trouble.
All right, that's sweet. I'm just going to go Friends.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because Emma just loves it. She watches it over and over, and we just watch it again and again. It never
Comfort
gets old.
food, right?
So good.
Comfort food.
Cool. Oh, that was good, Sash. A little trot down memory lane.
Well, I hope that people listening, it prompts them as well, and just notice the endorphins that you get, the warm fuzzies that you feel when you think back on those times. And it's something that we should build in, I reckon. Build it into either your daily or weekly practice where you go, oh, remember when? And just enjoy that feeling of things that have gone well for you or funny moments, and bring all that good stuff back. Living in the present can be really horrible. It's pretty tough right now.
Well, it's actually also one of the things that we do teach in the 30-Minute Presenter program is how to mine your past for stories and events and things that happened that you can recall, that you can bring into your presentations to make them more interesting, and then get good at telling those stories. But so often we can't recall everything that's happened to us. But actually, if you just sit down one day and ask yourself a series of questions, you'll be amazed. Like when your friend said, I was your first friend at school, and then it starts flooding back those memories. So, get out there, smell some stuff.
And what a great exercise to do with your kids and with your family, and be really surprising what pops up. My sister always remembers stuff that doesn't happen or that didn't happen. And me and my mum go, no, you've made that up.
Brilliant. All right, last question to finish with. Would you rather, Sash? This came from my daughter, Emma, who has been laughing about this for way too long. Would you rather have penis-sized nipples or a nipple-sized penis?
Oh. Okay, so I'm sensitive around boob stuff, right? Because I've got one nipple. So I'm going to think really hard about this. Would I want my one nipple to be penis size, or would I want my non-existent penis to be a nipple size? That's easy for me, right? That's easy. I'm going to take the nipple size penis. Thank you. What did you choose, Ish?
I went for the penis-sized nipples. Yeah.
You're such a man.
Such a man.
Let's just wrap up by reminding people that it's what's inside you that's important. Have fun out there, people. How you look is the least interesting thing about you.
Better nipples, everyone.
3 nipples, Chandler.